Hi guys, it's Jamie here, and day 23 of the Dephemerember challenge prompts are timetable or calendar and lace. The project we're going to do today is going to be running around calendar and junk mail envelopes. So here we have three junk mail envelopes that have been made into what I consider a letterbox, and within that there are 12 tags, and when you pull the tags out on the reverse you have the calendar. I'm going to take you through all the processes that went into putting this together, the page together, in the following video. I've gone online and printed up from timeanddate.com a free long form calendar for 2022. You can get them as big calendars that you write in, you can get them as the little ones. They have lots of options available, all free. And I've got 3 junk mail envelopes. My plan is to make my letterbox slots and cut these up and make them into tags as an insert for Mum's journal. This bit I always find a little bit tricky, and it's lining these up so there's enough of a gap that they can flip in on themselves. As long as there's a gap, if they don't manage to line up properly, you can always trim up around the edges. Because like I say, for some reason I find this particularly difficult to do without moving the envelopes. That is nearer at the top than the bottom. You just cut this off and see if I can adjust that. I want to check that they will fold in, which they do. If they don't line up perfectly, I will retrim the top and bottom. They're not lining up perfectly. You can see they're slightly different heights, or I put them at slightly different heights. That one seems to have gone up a bit higher. And then this one, and not much of a gap is needed. I'll probably end up having to play with this one as well. This isn't too sticky, so you do get that opportunity to lift it up and move things about. It's a paper tape, quite a cheap one. Okay, I'm wondering if you can fold that in on... Oh, you can fold that in on itself. So now all I want to do is trim it up. I might even do it in situ, so that everything lines up a little bit better. Initially, I'm going to take off any excess, and then I'm going to line it up to try and get a straight edge. I can spend hours trying to square things off. Cutting blade, and this will take a little bit of doing because it's 6 pages deep and has tape on it as well. Come off, swivel it round, line this one up with that line and along that bottom line, and I could go for, I think I could go for just inside. I don't want to make it too small, just inside this line. Hopefully this is now quite a neat-ish booklet. I think it's... yeah. I will quickly reseal any envelope bits that have been split, and then we will move on. I'm going to treat this slightly differently to how I normally do. Normally, if you watch me do any kind of masterboard, I start with old book pages. This time I'm going to start with some scraps of Indian print paper. I'm using a collage glue. I'm just going to take my scraps of paper, which are in a big pile, pop it down. I've got lots of scraps here, and work my way across every side that's going to show. So that's the inside, that side and that side, but not that very back bit because that's going to be stuck down in the actual journal. This is now dry. As you can see with the scraps, I actually wrapped them around all the edges. So not only have the edges been glued, Everything's been wrapped round edges. There's even where it's splitting slightly, there's masking tape underneath that. It's pretty secure. Now we're going to cut it because we want to make this like a letterbox or an old-fashioned punching in, clocking in machine from an old factory. And we're going to cut it so there are 4 slots on each panel. Find where you want to cut the top slots. You have to do this very carefully or you cut through to the back. If you cut through to the back, you can patch it and fix it. It's fine. It's just better if you don't. I have been known to cut through to the back, otherwise I wouldn't mention that you could fix it. The slots, I'm going to try and line them up as much as possible. I'm going to have to stand up for this, and very gently I'm going to do 2.5 inches roughly, doesn't really matter. Then you're going to drop down to do the next set. I'm going to go to 1 ruler plus 1 of these spacings and do the next set. And so you do 1 ruler, 1 spacing, 1 ruler, 1 spacing all across these envelopes. You've got the slits cut in and you've got 12 of them. See, you can see that they're cutting through. What you then want to do is create a little letterbox type slot. So it's not going to be much, it's going to be a tiny amount, just a little drop down on each one. I'm just drawing it so you can see it, because this paper's highly patterned. And then with a super sharp pair of scissors, little ones, these would be sharp, but of course they're covered in glue. I'm going to snip into that, cut along that little edge, and cut out your little letterbox slot. That will then, when we make the tags, give you space to get them in and out of there easier than if it's just one cut. Do that on all 12. Now you can see all those slots, and they're going to hold a tag that has each month of the year: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. It hasn't cut through too badly. The one that is cut through most on is this very back one, and that's possibly because these have got extra layers and this one hasn't. To fix any cut through, there's a mark on this one. It's not actually a cut, but it could give way to a cut. It's straightforward enough. We'll just take some of this and patch. This won't be seen anyway, so we're just patching over to make sure that's nice and secure, and this one will be seen, so just a small piece of patchwork on that one. After that, I'm going to, before working on this and decorating this further, I'm going to make the tags for these slots. At the moment they're just on a paper, printed up on a normal paper, and as you can see they will sit in there quite easily. I'm going to use scrap card, this is all scrap, and build tags to be slightly bigger than the card itself. Initially I just need to cut 12 very similar sized tags. I will come back when all that is done. Sometimes it's the prep that takes longer than anything else. I now have 12 index cards, and I've also punched out some tops because I just think it'll make for a nicer look. I'm going to put those together, and I think this brush is like stiff with glue now because it's dried out because of, yeah, it's dried out completely because of it taking so long to do all that. Obviously not fully up because you want it to stick up a bit. So somewhere around there. Hold it, press it down. Need the back side to glue on as well. I'm going to smudge that over. I don't need to worry about this side quite so much because I will be patchworking this side like this. Getting this, all 12 of these a base as well. I know, insane, but it's worth it. It also means that you're creating a much stronger join here with this top. I now have 12 of these to do. I had an idea. I love how these look already. I've actually ended up doing them both sides with the scraps of Indian print paper. As you can see, there's no focal points. If you put a focal point on here, I don't think with this background being quite so strong it would stand out. I've done a lot of dry brushing already, so what I thought was I will make one extra. So I have 13 of these. I will use one as a test, and if I don't like how it looks, I've still got 12 and can try something else. I am going to dry brush, but I'm not going to do pure white. This time I'm going to mix the white with some rose. Well, I say tiniest bit of rose. I'm actually going to have to make up a little bit of this to be able to dry brush it. I want it to look like old plaster, wallpaper, that type of thing. That's too dark. That's probably still too dark. It's not quite the colour I was thinking of. I was thinking more a white tinted like this with a bit of pinky colour. I'm not going to use that for dry brushing because obviously too much paint on that. I'm going to get a different brush and use that one so I can use less paint. And then I'm going to try and get the dry brushing, particularly where these joins are. So it's almost like plaster or peeling back wallpaper to reveal other layers of wallpaper like you would get in an old house. Then I thought probably boringly add something glittery. I don't know yet. Let's just take one of the pictures I was thinking of, which is quite stand out. I think this is too dull. What I might try and do, instead of just adding glitter everywhere, is put this down and then see if I can frame it almost. I'm wondering if what I should do is somehow mark up roughly where to put the foil. I'm going to see if I can get this to almost be a sort of, so clingy, this stuff. Don't know how anyone does it so it doesn't cling. And then you put the picture on top of that. So the gold is behind the picture. You just need a little bit more down this edge. Actually, that's okay. About to say, I think I want more at the bottom, but I don't know that I do need more at the bottom. Right, let's stick that down. I'm not overly keen on this top bit. So I'm going to get some of this paper. And that's dry. I'll just put a little bit of the pink over that. What are we thinking? Does that look all right? While I'm waiting for that to dry, let's compare it to one that hasn't been brushed over. Obviously, just have to imagine the gold on it. and see what we think. The one that hasn't been brushed over is quite nice as well. I don't know which I prefer. I've sat staring at them for a couple of minutes and I'm actually liking this one more than this one. I don't dislike this one. I just have to make a decision because I'm doing 12 of them. Off camera on this one that I was going to reject, I tried one more little thing and I've changed my mind about how to do these ones now, because what I did was I added a top coat of the Distress Collage Medium in Vintage, and it's tinted it with a bit of yellow and given it that old vintagey look. And you know, I said about old worn wallpaper that's being peeled back off walls. Now just doing that top coat, I feel in a way I've got that look that I was looking for more. I'm going to go back to that plan of the pink and then the gold and the top, and then add the glaze. Rather than me just talk about the Distress Collage Medium Vintage glaze, I wanted to show you the difference. So this is with the gold leaf on, which is the rose gold, the picture and the paint brushed into the background. And now we're just going to put this on, and you can see how it's just adding the tiniest bit of yellow. I suppose you could possibly achieve this effect with an ink, but I think the advantage is by using this medium you're also sealing in all the work that's already been done as well. If you don't want it to have brush marks in it, then what you can do using a clean finger, which might be a bit difficult for me, is go in and rub, and that will rub out the brush marks. That's all 12 done. I'd actually made 14, so that means I've got 2 more tags for further on in the journal. They're still a bit sticky, but we're going to give this a go just so you can see how the Stabilo works if you've not seen any of my videos before. So with the Stabilo, which is the Stabilo 8046, what you do is you just run along an outline and then smudge it. Now, depending on how dark you want it, you can either just smudge it with your finger, or, because it will smudge, use a little bit of water on your finger or on a Q-tip. Don't want too much, that's why I'm sort of squeezing it off. Too much and it just spreads everywhere. Slightest bit of damp, and then use your finger again. If you're not getting a look you like, which I'm not at the moment, use the water to lift it, and it will start to give you a slightly darkened edge. See, I can even do it just with the Q-tip that's lifted some, which if you frame a picture, as you can see, you start to see the picture more clearly because you've created a dark border to it. And you can do this as strong or as gentle as you want, or not at all if you don't like the look. But I wanted to show you the general difference once a border has gone on this compared to one without one. You can see the difference between that one and that one. Now it depends, it may not be to your taste. I'm going to do this, of course, on all of them, and then we're going to do the reverse side. The reverse of these journaling cards is going to have our calendar on them. I'm going to place it here Then I think what I would like to do is take a Distress Ink vintage photo, stain up this. Doesn't have to be evenly stained. I might, because I've done it on this side, stabilo round. And on this side we have the glaze. You will be able to write on that glaze, and where I've brushed it out there aren't any dramatic lines. Therefore I will glaze this side as well, but it will move some of this about because a glaze is wet, which is why I'm debating whether I want to glaze this side or just spray it with hairspray. I might just, because the glaze I think is based on the vintage photo, take this over the whole thing. You could ink the edges as well if you wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm going to grab a hairspray just so you can see that. Hairspray also protects work like a collage glaze would. Standing a reasonable distance away, just lightly glaze the surface. That will dry up. You will be able to write on it and it will be protected. Hey guys, it's the next morning. With the, I don't know what you'd call it, wallet, booklet, I want it to look similar but different. I'm not going to add extra pictures to the inner cover. I will on this one and this one. I've got some extras here. I've got this big bright peacock, which is stunning. I'm going to go with that one. That was a very easy decision making process for that one. I've got a smaller one there. Right, you can get this effect as I showed with the back of these using the Distress vintage photo, and you will get a very similar look. That needs to dry. I'll do similar here with this idea of the stabilo. On the inside I'll also glaze the inside, and then we will come back and look at what to do to make these little letter boxes, or if we want to make these little letter boxes stand out. I lied, I ended up putting the gold over it. I decided I like shiny way too much. I'm just going to protect it with some hairspray. And let that dry off. And then there's some things we have to do to the page that this is going on, which will involve the lace aspect of this prompt. One thing I've learnt from doing this is that using this copy paper, it's very thin, and when you add something as heavy as this, it causes massive issues to the paper. I'm going to sandwich this piece between two pieces of decorative paper, so it's treble thickness. This is the side I'm actually going to put the calendar on. I need to glue this to this. I am going to just use Pritt Stick, and I'm going to cover the whole of this page with the Pritt Stick. It's lifting there a bit already. I'm going to have to washi tape that in. That's fine, it's just a bit more decoration. Washi tape again is not super sticky, so I will run the Pritt Stick along the edge and then put the washi tape over the extra Pritt Stick. I just found something completely contrasting. It's the one thing I like doing with the Indian journal, is that nothing has to match. Hopefully that will now hold that totally down. Trim this side off, or even just bring that over and then trim. So trim along these two edges and then bring that over so that you've got extra strength on this page, and then put another one over that. That might work. This is why we test as we go along, because having put that over that edge, that is now quite stiff. If I was to do a border, I would do it on this side now. And then I just want to see, I need to add lace to fulfill the brief, but it's where to add the lace. I've got a lace, but that would go possibly there, so it's centre to that. And I suppose if you're going to add lace, you've only got two options. One would be here, cut a narrower strip and add it here, or have a floppy over the page strip, but again quite narrow, and have it on this edge, which I think would be the my preferred design. To glue the lace onto the page, I'll be using a Fabri-Tac or silicone glue and just running it along the edge. And now, without sticking my hands to it, which is always the thing, you do want to push that lace onto the page a little bit. I will not be gluing this onto the page until last minute, because it would then make it awkward to decorate other pages. I will use this piece of lace. It's a shame there wasn't enough of this to secure it, tie it together. And then I will be using probably a very thick double-sided tape, really strong one, around here, and even some of that Fabri-Tac glue as well, to make sure that once that's on, it's going nowhere. And then when you want to write something on your calendar, you would open that and it would open out on the page, and you take out the relevant tag. If I wanted to, I could make a pocket. I would just have to decorate this back up a bit more, which really wouldn't take much. I'll make a decision about that shortly. In the meanwhile, if you have enjoyed this video, watching my decision making process, liking the result, please give me a thumbs up, because it does mean that other people on the tube get to see the video. Let me know what you think of this project or any of the projects in my playlist in the comments below. And if you're not already, and 50% of you aren't, please consider subscribing to the channel. That also helps YouTube make me more visible. And I will see you next time.